Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in Junior English, and we turn now in our MyPerspectives volume 2, unit 5, and we are now with you on page 552 and following as we prepare to study the historical perspectives information. I want to start though with this essential question on 552. How do we respond when challenged by fear? As you read these selections, I'm on page 552, as you read these selections, work with your whole class to explore the meaning and power of fear, from text to topic. One person's unreasonable fears can make his or her life very difficult. What might happen then when a shared fear afflicts a family, a whole town, or an entire country? Arthur Miller explores this prospect in The Crucible, one of his most famous plays. Using a carefully researched case of mass hysteria from America's colonial past, Miller draws attention to fears haunting American culture in the 1950s. The story that he presents is powerful in its own right, but it also encourages audience to consider how unrestrained, unreasonable fear can damage a society. As you read The Crucible, consider what the narrative shows about the far-reaching influence of fear. Then do please pay attention to the whole class learning strategies at the bottom of 552. And of course on 553 you will have the list of the different readings for Unit 5. Now let's turn to our historical perspectives starting on page 554. Notice your date of 1920 to 1960. Please notice that you have your timeline at the bottom. I want you to pay attention to that. And you've got some 4 quotes provided for you there on 554 that I want you to take a look at. Of course, FDR's famous, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself" quote. Let's now turn to the history of the period, and we'll work through each one of these different paragraphs with a different heading. The first of those headings is the Roaring Twenties. World War I ended in 1918, and in the decade that followed, the nation seemed to go on a binge of building, consumption, and speculation. The economy boomed, skyscrapers rose. The prohibition made the sale of liquor illegal, which led to bootlegging and the rise of organized crime. Radio, jazz, and movies helped shape American culture. As people let go of pre-war values, they let the roar of the Roaring Twenties drown out the sounds of war and the horror of death. The Great Depression, the next heading. The boom, of course, could not last, and in October of 1929, the stock market crashed, spurring what is known as the Great Depression. By mid-1932, about 12 million Americans, 1/4 of the country's workforce, were unemployed. Hungry and panicked people waited for food in bread lines and in soup kitchens. The government seemed unable to turn the economy around. Depression became more than an economic fact. It became a national state of mind. The New Deal, the next heading. When elected president in 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt took action immediately, initiating a package of major economic reforms that came to be known as the New Deal. Many Americans soon found work on huge public projects, including building dams and bridges, conserving land, and recording the past and present in photographs, artwork, and writing. Roosevelt's leadership and policies helped end the Depression and earned him an unprecedented 3 re-elections in 1936, 1940, and 1944. By the way, do pay attention to the graph at the top of 555. Our next heading, World War II. Just 20 years after the end of World War I, Germany, under the rule of Adolf Hitler, ignited the Second World War with its invasion of neighboring countries. The dominant mood in the United States, however, was one of isolationism, with most Americans preferring to stay out of the conflict. This attitude changed dramatically when Japanese forces attacked the naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7, 1941. With more than 3,000 American casualties and the destruction of much of the American battleship fleet, neutrality and isolationism came to a swift end. The United States quickly declared war on the Axis powers, Germany, Japan, and Italy. It took years of bitter fighting in Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific before the Allies, the United States, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, defeated Italy, Germany, and then Japan. Japan surrendered only after the United States dropped an atomic bomb on the cities of Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. Peace and the atomic age had arrived. Our next heading, face-off with communism. The threat of communist infiltration and influence became a fixation in the United States after World War II. I'm now on to page 556. The United States battled against Communist China and Korea from 1950 to 1953. With the rise of the Soviet Union, the Cold War, competition between Eastern Bloc countries and the West, became intense. Fear of unchecked Soviet aggression marked the period. Espionage, economic sanctions, treaties, defense measures, and diplomatic conflicts were constantly in the news. By the mid-1950s, the country faced another communist threat as conflict began in Vietnam. Meanwhile, a Red Scare, quote-unquote, led by Senator Joseph McCarthy of Wisconsin, spread fear of communist infiltration at home. Cold War anxiety was intensified by the existence of the atomic bomb, which created global fears, as well as a new urgency surrounding the management of international conflict. In some ways, the post-war period could be characterized as an age of anxiety, as Americans seemed unable to stop thinking about terrible things that could or might happen. Schools regularly held air raid drills, and communists were hunted everywhere. Post-war boom. The United States emerged from World War II as the most powerful nation on earth. In the 1950s, despite the pressures of the Cold War, the nation enjoyed widespread prosperity. Its suburbs expanded and its consumer society flourished. Americans' incomes almost doubled in the 1950s, transforming American lives. By the mid-1950s, 60% of Americans were defined as being in the middle class. Our next heading, the television age. The influence of television became especially powerful in the post-war era. In 1946, the nation had 6 TV stations. 10 years later, there were more than 400 stations. By 1960, there was a television in almost every American home. Television spearheaded revolutions in consumerism and mass communication. Millions of Americans saw the same advertisements and the same entertainment. Many watched television news broadcasts to learn about the Soviet Union's launch of the first artificial satellite to orbit the Earth, which initiated the space race. Some 70 million Americans watched Richard Nixon lose the 1960 election debates to John F. Kennedy, forever changing the structure of political campaigns. And now the last heading, the American dilemma. Deep conflicts between American ideals and the reality of the treatment of African Americans continued into the post-war decades. However, the 1950s saw the foundations of significant change in desegregating American society, beginning with the 1954 landmark Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, which overturned the earlier decision that separate but equal facilities were legal. From that moment on, a civil rights movement began to build force under the leadership of people such as Martin Luther King Jr. and the participation of a growing number of protesters, from students in Arkansas to bus riders in Alabama. I'd like on page 557 for you to take a look at those literature selections that are there, both for the literature of the focus period as well as connections across time. And let's now turn to our Unit 5 study. Thank you.